Good morning. I think this is high time to start now in order to keep to the time schedule. Anyway, I'd like to start by saying that I'm very happy to see you all here. And in this working group, we are going to speak about how to reach out to vulnerable social groups in the labor market. And we are speaking about how they can participate on the labor market. My name is Catherine Barme, and I am involved with labor and employment issues in Socieux Plus, which is an EU program dealing with people, social programs, and help them to get on the labor market. And I'm going to moderate this group here. I am very happy for the fact that we are talking on these topics today, because both for you and me it's an important issue, but it's also a strategic topic, because from the social but also from the economic point of view, it is very important to involve the vulnerable groups. And it has been taking place for about 10 years. And through these years, we have managed to work out very innovative and strategic solutions. We have launched educational programs in order to improve the situation. And of course, we have also enhanced the labor policy. And we can also say that our health systems have become more open, not to mention the everyday life and financial services. We have also achieved very specific results, but as a matter of fact, there are also quite many obstacles on our road, and it's very difficult to get rid of them. Of course, the situation is very different in different countries. Also, the needs of vulnerable groups are different in different countries, the needs of different social groups on the market. And these needs are continuously changing. And today we are here in order to speak about the initiatives in your respective countries and to debate on these. But first of all, I am going to introduce you our panelists. And after that, we have time to talk. And I would also like to point out that we'd be very happy to hear your voice, your feedback, your questions as audience. Talk to me, talk to all of us. And we are...
Et puis pour ceux qui nous suivent en virtuel,
you can participate in both ways. Here in this room we have a microphone which will be sent around, but if you are listening to us through web, then you can use the Jubilo platform.
Préparer un pool de questions collectives et nous aimerions que vous puissiez
we also have a questionnaire. We have prepared a couple of questions to you, and that's how we also find out about your opinion, which will be showed on the screen. But I can read the questions out already. And during the session, all our speakers and also you have some extra time in order to answer these questions. And by the end of the session, we see what are the results. The first question.
Définition et une typologie des populations vulnérables, quels sont les indicateurs pour les identifier?
Has the vulnerable social group as such been defined in your country, and what does it mean? And the second question is,
sachant que les femmes cumulent un certain nombre de difficultés,
bringing the vulnerable groups on the labor market, does it have to be, so to say, general approach above cultures? And lastly, do we need special approach for specific vulnerable groups? Then there is one more question, whether developing soft skills helps
Donc voilà, je vous ai donc
the
présenté
vulnerable population to find better jobs, decent employment. These are the 4 questions which I kindly ask you to answer. But now let me introduce our today's speakers to you.
Sõmer-Kull.
First of all, we are going to listen to Ms. Sirlis Sõmer-Kull, representing Estonia. As a matter of fact, she is not with us here in this room, but via web. Hello, Sirlis.
Sur votre présentation. Alors,
I am very happy that you're going to present
depuis 2
to us today.
auprès des groupes sociaux vulnérables. Tout d'abord, en tant que responsable du
Sirlis Sõmer-Kull has worked with vulnerable groups for a couple of decades by now, and she has been the head of the social welfare department in the Ministry of Social Affairs,
de la capacité
and
de travail et des services de soutien dans
she has also been the one to tackle the
des chevilles ouvrières.
employment reform in Estonia. We also have to
Réforme qui a permis d'accroître
emphasize that additionally to leading the employment reform, that was the reform which has helped a lot also the vulnerable groups, people with special needs in Estonia.
sur l'emploi et les services sociaux. Madame Sirlis Sõmer-Kull
She has also worked a lot with social issues and the topics closely related to labor markets. And today we are going to hear about the employment reform in Estonia, which started 2016.
du Kenya, qui est
After that, we are going to listen to Ms.
l'autorité nationale pour l'emploi,
Rotich from Kenya,
public kenyan pendant
and she is the Director of Employment and National Employment Authority, and she has worked in Kenya civil service for 30 years and is a certified human resource expert. And she's also a very active member of WWC, and she was the one who prepared the hosting of WWC in Kenya.
conseil d'administration.
And she is also connected with the International Migration Organization and work for them. And here she is also as a member of the managing board of representing Kenya. And today we are going to hear about the new initiatives in Kenya and specifically how to include more young people. And the next speaker is Ms. Živa Štiglic from Slovenia, and she is here with us in this room, and she has a master's degree in law, and right now she works in the employers' central organization in Slovenia, and she works out new initiatives targeted at employers, and that are meant for solving different challenges related to employment.
de la défense des intérêts des chômeurs de longue durée. De fait,
She has also been responsible for developing the solution of long-term unemployment. And finally,
par la présentation de Monsieur Alain Mauny,
we are going to hear Mr. Alain Mauny's presentation.
en Nouvelle-Aquitaine.
He is at the moment the regional director of Pôle emploi,
Et de contrôle interne,
starting from February 2021,
et de contrôle
and
qui s'est achevé
he has studied in
HS.
the Institute of Auditors and Internal Controllers, and he has started his professional career in ASADIC and continued in UNADIC, which are old organizations on labor market in France, and was active in the merging of those two organizations. And he has been deputy director in UNADIC and in other districts as well. And right now
Alors, malheureusement, Monsieur
Yes.
Maury,
Before that,
en fait,
he was the director of Île-de-France,
destiné
and today we are going to hear about 4 measures, the aim of which was to improve the
c'est-à-dire les travailleurs handicapés, les demandeurs d'emploi,
measures in France, and especially the vulnerable groups, people with special needs, especially the ones who are living in marginal areas, and we are also speaking about young people. But as a matter of fact, Mr. Alain Mauny is not present today, not even via web, but we have Mr. Sampo, who is the director of communication in the same organization. You can see him on the screen, and he's going to answer your questions. Now, I could have a long time talking myself, but now I'm going to give the floor to the first speaker.
Hello, my name is Sirlis Sõmer-Kull. I'm a member of Management Board of Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund. And my presentation today is about workability reform, enhancing employment opportunities for people with disabilities. And now we are moving to my presentation. And first, I'm going to introduce you our organization, Estonian Unemployment Insurance Fund. We are an independent public body with tripartite management. We have government members, employers, and trade unions in our supervisory board. And as you can see from the map, we have lots of service points all over Estonia because we are working with clients, so we need to be close to people. And who are our clients? They are job seekers, people in employment, young people, students, and employers. And what do we do? Our business trends, service provision, we help job seekers to find job, and also we support employees and also employers find employees. We pay benefits and allowances, and we do work capacity assessment. So, and now we can move on to the main topic of my presentation. It's about workability reform. And workability reform was launched with the aim to improve employment opportunities of people with disabilities. It has been one of a significant reform during the last 5-6 years. But why we started with that reform? I think that there is a slide from the year 2015 when we started with a reform. And as you can see from the picture, at that time we have almost half of people with disabilities were inactive. They were, and they also were not looking for a job. So almost half of them were inactive or unregistered, unemployed. So, and that was one reason that we would really like people to be active. So traditional incapacity for work pension scheme was so-called passive support scheme. People received pension, but we can say they stayed at home, they didn't work, and now were looking for a job. So that was a reason why we started a reform, the first reason. But the second trigger was they increased the number of disability pension claimants and rapidly growing expenditure threatening to double within 10 years. So it has become clear that if continued unchanged, disability benefits, even though far from being generous, will take all the money and not much left to support measures. So the second reason was that we needed changes in budget. We needed to control the pension claimants and to move the money to support measures. So in conclusion, we had 2 important goals: to increase the labour market activity of people with reduced workability and slow down the growth of a number of disability pension claimants. And what did we do? Let's move on. The reform had 5 main challenges. And the first one was that we changed workability assessment system. First, with a reform, the task of assessing workability was transformed from Social Insurance Board to Unemployment Insurance Board. And we also changed the workability assessment methodology. Previous scheme was based on diagnosis, and we made a decision about the person incapacity for work according to using only medical data. But now we look how medical conditions affect person functional abilities. And as a result, person can be able to work, partially able to work, not able to work. And the second change was that the flat rate workability benefit replaced traditional incapacity for work. So we have like 2 levels now. If a person is partially able to work, the benefit at the moment is 279 euros. And if a person is not able to work, the benefit is 490 euros. And there are also earning related reductions. And the third change is activation obligation. What does it mean? A person who is partially able to work has to be active if you would like to get the benefit. And they should work, study, or look for a work through unemployment insurance fund. So, and of course we needed employment measures, employment services, and we extended the old and created a new measures to support the people to find the job. And not only employment measures, but also social welfare measures, like social services, also to support the people to find a job. So in general, we may say that we had 3 main kind of cornerstones. First one, reform changed workability assessment and benefit. The second one, more support available in employment and everyday life. And the third one, employers' motivation and positive thinking in society. People with disabilities can and want to work. I think that the last one was actually very important. The changes in attitudes were really at a very significant role to support people to work in open labor market. So, and move on and look, we are going to look these 3 cornerstones a bit closer. And the first one, extended disability employment measures for people and employers. First, the measures we provided to people. The grey ones are the ones we had already before the reform, and the orange ones were the measures that we launched at the beginning of reform. So, and I would like to point kind of the most important measure that we have, or basic measure, it's disability employment counselling. In Estonia, the counsellors are working in unemployment insurance fund. They are our employees, and at the beginning of a reform, we kind of they got a lot of trainings and methods how to counsel the people with disabilities. And now they work with clients who need more extensive help in finding or keeping job. So, but also employment with support, new services, employment with support person, peer counseling, work-related rehabilitation, mobile counseling, supported employment. These are special measures for people with disabilities. Of course, people could use general measures like training, career counseling and hours, but these measures, services are especially for people with disabilities. And we also have special measures for employers to support to recruit people with disabilities. And the new one is disability management at work, training and counseling from employers. And the traditional ones, wage subsidy, social tax benefit, but also workplace adjustments. So the first kind of cornerstone, old and new measures for people with disabilities and employers and employees. So, and job seekers. The second change was changes in workability assessment methodology. So we use new methodology is based on international classification of functioning. So it means that we use health conditions, and we, according to the health conditions, we check how the health conditions influence person activities, participation and functioning. And there are 7 areas where the assessment is based. They cover, these areas represent full spectrum of person performance, physical abilities and mental abilities. And so we check how health conditions affect functional abilities. And what is the process? At first, person has to rate her ability herself using guiding questionnaire. Then medical doctor has to confirm the the assessment related information based on medical data. So, and at the end, person can be able to work, partially able to work, not able to work. So this is the workability assessment is based on international classification of functioning. So, and move on, a very important third cornerstone, raising awareness and employers' motivation. So there were, during the reform, there were a lot of campaigns and they talk about people with disabilities and their work. Alongside various labour market measures, it's important to point to change in attitudes that favour the recruitment and employment of people with reduced workability as a positive effect of a reform. And what did we have? We had special editions between dailies, continuous networking and co-creation with a target group. And you can see also the pictures from the newspapers, and there is also the training, discussions. And if we move on, we can see also the TV shows, discussions about the workability reform, and also series of radio and television programs, a separate social media channel at the beginning of a workability reform. So we find it really important that there are lots of discussions in public about the disability issues and the disability work issues. So, and now we can move on. What are the results of a reform? As you remember, the goal of reform was that more people with disabilities are employed, they work, and as you can see from the slide, at the beginning of a reform, the activity rate for people, the rate of people who were active in the labour market was almost 48%, and then it increased from year to year till the year 2019. It was already 52.4%. But as you remember, in 2019, the COVID crisis started, and it influenced a little bit also the work possibilities of people with disabilities. So, but in general, we reached to the goal. The employment rate of people with disabilities is increasing step by step every year. And even if you look at people with who are partially able to work, the rate of work rate is 63%, and also people who are assessed as with no ability to work are also in employment, and the employment rate is 26%. So if people is assessed not able to work, they still can work, but it's not so easy, it's quite difficult. But if some people do, then it's good. Now when we move on, it's also important that people with disabilities are looking for a job, and they are registered as unemployed and are looking for a job with the help of unemployment insurance fund. At the beginning of a reform, the share of registered unemployed with reduced workability was 3-4%, but from year to year, this orange column here, it shows it's all unemployed people, registered unemployed people, and the orange is a share of people with reduced workability. And it has been in the year 2018 almost 33%. Now again, due to COVID crisis, the percentage is a bit lower, but still the amount of people who are registered as unemployed is still high. And that's mainly because of activation responsibility. As you remember, people who are partially able to work have to look for a job, be active, and so that's why they came to unemployment insurance fund, and now they are looking for a job with our help. So, and also we can say that people with reduced workability find a job, and half of them find a job during the year. The orange line, it's a little bit slower or not so high than people who don't have reduced workability, but still it's quite okay. So, and now my final slide. In conclusion, what lessons we learned? The lessons we learned, what's success? More people with disabilities work or are looking for employment. Nearly every second job seeker finds a job within a year. Job opportunities are diverse, and cross-sectoral use of evaluation results is also in use. And what are our challenges? It's still a skills gap. It's a lot of people with disabilities where education is not so high, and it also has an influence. They have not so easy to find a job. Ability of social services, it's also a problem, but social services are not accessible in all over Estonia. There are caps. And also wage gap, 20% lower income from work, and it's also important sustainable employment. So I think that we have reached a lot, but there are still steps to go. But anyway, we can say in conclusion that the employment reform has reached to the goals, and it's moving on. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Madame Sõmer-Kull, pour cette présentation concise, mais en même temps exhaustive.
Thank you very much,
En fait, de voir que
Ms. Sirlis Sõmer-Kull, for this presentation. It was a very good overview, but also quite detailed. So we got a good picture of how the reform was managed and what were the results. And we can see that people with disabilities feel themselves more certain on the labor market, and also that the employers know more how to offer jobs to these people. But here in this room we have quite many people, and there may be some questions you want to ask, or perhaps even just comments. You have a chance now.
Si nous avons des questions précises sur cette présentation.
Do we have questions or perhaps specifications you want to
Je vois que pour le moment,
have?
il n'y en a pas. Donc moi,
There seem to be none at the moment, but I have a question myself.
Les services. Est-ce que cette digitalisation
And this is about going with your services online.
et accroître l'employabilité
Does it mean that now when these services are available online, has it improved the availability or accessibility of the vulnerable groups on the labor market? And secondly, these digital services,
handicap des populations ciblées? Merci beaucoup.
do they also take into account the disability of the person? For example, if we speak about vulnerable groups.
Thank you for your question. Yes, I think it's a good example is our disability employment counseling that the Unemployment Insurance Fund is providing itself. We have now using more flexible counseling ways. Of course, there is a traditional face-to-face counseling in our offices, but we can also use Skype or Teams counseling, so-called video calls. We also use e-service, which is the person has to answer the questions in our e-service, and the counselor can communicate with a person via this e-service. And we also can go to the place of service provider and counselor. And we have got the feedback from the people with disabilities that for some people it's very, very good that now there is also counseling via phone counseling. For example, people with anxiety disorders, they sometimes it's very difficult for them to come out and go to our office, as this was almost away previously, but now it's more suitable for them to use a phone or maybe also the video call and to have a counseling. So it's there are different choices, and the decision what kind of channel is used is made together with a person and the counselor, and the best one is decided together. And also our service providers, for example, rehabilitation service providers, but also peer counselors, they also use video calls, phone calls for service provision. So it has made the services more accessible for people with disabilities, and they probably move on with these different channels and ways to use services.
Merci beaucoup. Merci pour votre réponse. Très instructive. Donc, je pense que maintenant, nous avons une nouvelle question. Donc, je vous laisse la poser.
Paul Divany from Australia. I'm interested in Estonia's experience in educating employers about hiring staff with mental health conditions. You know, the invisible sort of conditions that someone might have around anxiety, depression, having to get to know teammates they work with and being supervised for the first time for a while. How do you help employers prepare their staff and also change their attitudes to that condition?
Yes, I think that we have had a lot of help from our new service, which is disability management at work, training and counseling for employers. In unemployment insurance fund, we have employees who have also disabilities and disability experience, and we provide different type of counseling for employers. We can counsel per case, or we can also provide the training. And it has been very popular that employers ask for training, for example, in mental health issues, and we provide these trainings for concrete employer, for either for a staff, and it's really important measure, because there is a need of knowledges, or employers are looking for the knowledges, and there are lots of myths about the people with disabilities. So I think with this new service that we created with training and counseling for employers in disability issues has helped a lot to raise the awareness about disability issues.
Merci. Je vois qu'il y a une troisième question, je vous en prie.
Bonjour, je suis Sandrine Portier du SPE français. Ma question est la suivante. Avez-vous participé à cette réforme en faveur des demandeurs d'emploi handicapés en recrutant vous-même SPE, Service public de l'emploi, en tant qu'employeur? Merci.
Merci.
Did your employment fund also employ
Traduction.
people with disabilities in the course of this reform?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Because there were a lot of people talking at the same time. I didn't hear.
I can
in English
ask
or in
English if you
Estonian.
want to.
A translator, can you please repeat the question?
Ok. Avez-vous participé à cette réforme en faveur des travailleurs handicapés en recrutant vous-même en tant que service public de l'emploi employeur?
I haven't heard the question.
Actually, it's okay. You have a colleague in the room who answered, and she said yes. Anyway, don't worry. It's okay.
No,
I have the answer. Thank you.
No, maybe you can have the question in English, please. It will
Okay, so my question was, did you participate to this reform by recruiting job seekers, disabled job seekers, as an employer? But I think it's yes.
As an employer? What do you mean with the question? Did we recruit job seekers as employer? We have a measures to support the people with disabilities to start a company or just to be act as an employer, or what was the question?
No, don't worry. I will.
Okay,
I will ask something else maybe
Alors,
later. Thank you.
Je pense que vous avez une autre question? Non? Alors, je pense qu'en fait, nous allons donc passer à la deuxième intervention.
More questions?
Madame Rael Rotich du Kenya. Et j'espère que nous n'aurons aucune difficulté à pouvoir échanger avec elle après via les connexions Internet. Donc en fait, we are facing some difficulty with the translation in English, isn't it? Maybe, okay. So we will have now the presentation of Mrs. Rael Rotich from Kenya, and so we are waiting for the recorded presentation. If you can go on, please. No.
Hello, this is Rael Rotich, Director Employment from National Employment Authority of Kenya under the Ministry for Labor. I want to thank the organizers of the WAPES 12th conference for giving me a chance to be a presenter and share the public employment services scenario in Kenya. I'm going to present on the public employment services challenges and the digitalization in Kenya. And my focus will be on the youths ages 18 to 34 years, both in the formal and the informal sectors. To start with, I'm going to give the mandate of the Public Employment Services of Kenya. Amongst others is provision of advisory services on policies on issues touching employment, registration and linkages of job seekers to employment, and provision of occupational and vocational guidance and counseling to the youths and the job seekers. So what are the challenges we face in Kenya as space? We've had lack of and segregated data on job seekers numbers, lack of data on job seekers skills. We also have lack of and segregated data on skills available in terms of the supply and the demand of the skills, which has also led to unemployment, underemployment, and this is all because of skills mismatch. We've also had a challenge of employers and companies closing down due to economic hardships. This has even worsened with the COVID because we've had so many companies closing down then, leading to redundancies and layoffs. And initially we used to have inflexible working hours, which was a big challenge during the era of COVID. So what are the interventions we've had to address the challenges? As I said earlier, first is to advise on policy change, and that's what we've done, and we've come up with a policy change to address critical areas, like in terms of affirmative action for women, persons with disabilities, the marginalized, and even the coming up of the flexible working hours. Initially, we used to have the 8-hour work, but now we have policies which have changed that and brought about the part-time working and working from home. We also had interventions for digitalizing the public employment services, which initially was purely manual. But around 3 to 4 years ago, we started to digitalize the public employment services whereby we digitalize the job seekers registration, which they do it online now. And this one also we did extend to recruitment agencies registration for the sake of accreditation. We have a platform called the National Employment Authority Management Information System, which is being used by job seekers to register and also being used by the recruitment agencies to register. So the other intervention is we have had promotion of programs to cushion the unemployed. We've had a program called Kasi kwa Vijana, which means work for youth, whereby youths are given work to do for pay. So the work which normally youths are given is like in their construction projects, sanitation projects, whereby they are given exposure, and from there they are able to network and able to seek their own jobs or start self-employment in those sectors they've been exposed to. We've also had digital talent programs in conjunction with the Ministry of ICT, whereby the youths are trained on ICT skills and they are made ready to work for industry needs. In this case, we have had them to be exposed, and we've been training them to work in areas like in the cybers, and they're able even to work on the online jobs, in sales online. So the digital talent program has really helped in exposing the youths to get employment in those formal and informal sectors. We've also had a program called the Kenya Youth Employment and Opportunities Project, KYOP, whereby youths are trained in skills in either informal or informal sector in readiness for them to be employed. So with the KYOP, we train the youths on life skills, on entrepreneurial skills, financial management, ICT, and things like catering, welding, masonry, plumbing. So this one really exposes them to the skills which are in short, which are in demand in Kenya, and they're able therefore to work in those industries which can employ them, and some of them even go to self-employment. We've also had partnership to invest more on networks and networking linkages with our partners. So what are the interventions we have had to address the challenges? So the government has had a program of paid internship policy program, whereby the government employs youth on internship basis, and they are paid for a duration of 1 year. In this case, they are exposed to the various fields of their training. From there, they are able to get experience and either start their own jobs or get employment. So this one also improves or promotes employability of job seekers and even help them build referrals to others. So the other intervention is that we've had more focus on research for marketable skills for both formal and informal sectors, and encourage training on such areas. Initially, I talked about the skills mismatch. So we've had research on the skills which are in short supply, and these are the areas whereby we encourage the youths to train on for the sake of employability and for the sake of meeting the demand for those short skills. So with this research, we are able to come up with the promotion of technical and vocational education training, whereby the skills in short supply were being focused on and were being encouraged, and the government is also training youths on these technical and vocational courses like plumbing, like welding, masonry, carpentry, and even hairdressing, whereby this one encourages youth to be self-employed or to be employed in the industrial or the manufacturing sector, which initially was being neglected. So we've also had a lot of buy-in from the youths for these courses. We've also had a youth employment program which has encouraged innovations and promotion of self-employment arising from those trainings which I've talked about. And we've also focused on digitalization. We are encouraging online jobs which somebody can do within the country or even outside. And in this, we started a Nigeria-Kenya program which trains youth on digital and online work, which also promotes digital talent and ICT-related trainings and skills. So what happened to us during the COVID era? We were also affected. Our public employment service was affected during the COVID era. So the impact was an increase in unemployment, underemployment. The employers and companies closed down. we had more redundancies than before. We had job cuts, salary cuts, and layoff. We also had reduced and flexible working hours. Initially, we used to have fixed working hours, but now we had to promote flexible working hours so that more people could remain on the jobs. So the redundancies of works, that is also the loss of business opportunities. So the employers also had a pinch of the COVID impact because the market for their goods and services was reduced because of less purchasing power and less, also leading to less purchase of goods. So in conclusion, our public employment service, we've had the policy change on government paid internship, which has promoted employability of youths and helped build networks among them. There have been more training in vocational and technical skills like welding, hospitality, artisan, masonry, and the others. We've also had youth employment programs which has encouraged innovations and promotion of self-employment programs and attitude change towards the technical and vocational courses and works. And this one has also led to self-employment, which is being focused more, and even some of them are even going towards the agricultural sector. So there's also been focus on digitalization, as I said, at Jira Kenya, whereby we train people for digital and online work, and we promote digital talents. So pay services and recruitment agencies registration is all digital now, thanks to the digitalization program. And we've also had the partnership with our service providers. We've had discounted internet payments for youth, for provision of internet, like from Safaricom Promotions and others from Zuku service providers. So that is how far Kenya we've gone in terms of public employment services, and we are still hoping that we keep on improving. We keep on improving. Thank you.
Alors, merci beaucoup, Madame Rotich, pour votre intervention.
Thank you very much, Madame Rotich.
D'échanger avec vous par vidéoconférence.
I hope we will be able to communicate with you via web or online. We can't see you on the screen, unfortunately.
Alors, je crains qu'on n'ait pas pu établir la connexion avec le Kenya.
It seems to me that we cannot connect with Kenya at the moment. So at the moment, I propose that we let the technicians do their job. Perhaps you have questions that we can send to her after the end of the session. I do have a question, for example. But you can also just comment the presentation if you wish to, or just express your opinion. We can use this opportunity that we're all here and we can discuss among each other. And of course, we can discuss with the people who are here on the screen.
Alors, je pense qu'il n'y en a pas.
But it seems that no one has comments and questions, though you know that you do have this opportunity. Actually, I have a question or two. What are the strategies in Kenya? What concerns this non-formal sector? How to reach youth in this sector? I know in many countries there are issues with this. Youth unemployment is high in these countries. And the second question, what are the problems you have faced? And what could be the solutions, good solutions, so that youth in the non-formal sector would be included as well? We got several answers to these questions yesterday, but I would like to know what is the situation in Kenya. Thank you. But let's continue. And we have reached Madame Živa Štiglic from Slovenia. I am very pleased to welcome her here today. She's present on the stage.
Hi, I'm going to stand if it's okay with you. And my slides, perfect, everything's perfect. Hi, dear colleagues. Thank you for coming to this session. Thank you for this opportunity to present this to you. My name is Živa Štiglic. I'm coming from the ESS Slovenia. I'm leading the central office for employers, but I have been introduced in the beginning, so let's go straight to the topic. My topic today is, as you can see, advocacy in the employment service of Slovenia. But my key message actually is why we decided to strengthen advocacy at the employment service of Slovenia, why we did it in cooperation with business, and how it affected our unemployed and our employees. But before we begin, let's go back to ask ourselves why. The challenge that I'm going to present today is we started noticing that we have certain long-term unemployed that never got a chance for an interview. No matter what they did, they never got a chance even for an interview. They never got a job, even though they were motivated and they were skilled. So we were working with them, we were working with those people, we were working with those groups, but then we realized that's just not enough. We have to strengthen our advocacy. We have to strengthen our colleagues. We have to strengthen the things we are doing for them. So we started developing advocacy at the Employment Service of Slovenia. And as we were doing that, our colleagues said, okay, but we need training. We don't even understand what exactly that is. Is that something we are doing? And before we were starting to prepare this training, we did a very vast monitoring of what our counselors are actually doing in the field. And what we realized is some of our colleagues really don't know what advocacy is and are really not doing it in practice. The others are doing it a lot. They have the skills, but when they hear about advocacy, they're like, no, that's not something we do, that's not something we're interested in, what's that? No, it's just going to be another number, another box we will have to tick. Please no. And then there were some that were already doing it really well and loved it and just need a little bit of strengthening. So we said, okay, we really don't want to do another training that's like just to make a training, that we sometimes do that, right? So we actually included all the sectors at Employment Service of Slovenia to help us build a training that really covers all the areas and is really going to strengthen the advocacy in all the areas. And the trainings that we prepared were focused on what advocacy actually is and when to use it, because it's not something you use because your boss told you, oh, you have to do 5 things a year. It's something that you need a soft skill to even understand when it's the right time, when it's the right opportunity. And also to create an understanding of what advocacy means at Employment Service of Slovenia and to have a common understanding of that and to be on the same page. Then secondly, how to recognize which unemployed even to advocate for, how to recognize who's the right material, who is motivated enough, who is even interested in this. So this was like an important area of this teaching of the trainings. Then third, how to recognize the suitable employers. These are the ones that we usually have partnerships with, that we have trust, that know us, that have good experience with us. But that's not enough. I mean, really important for the advocacy is that we don't force anyone. And we also discussed how to train people, how to recognize these little indicators that show us which employers could be open for something like that. Of course, how to establish good partnerships for employers, and then how to negotiate. Because basically, if we're honest, a lot of times advocacy for this long-term unemployed means that we are kind of making employers do something they don't really want to do in the first place, because they would have done it if they would want to. So we need to strengthen our negotiation skills. And we realized in practice that our colleagues often feel inferior to the employers. they feel like, oh, I have no right to negotiate with them, which is not true because we have partnership agreement. We do a lot more than the bare minimum that is in the law for the employers sometimes. So we realized we really need to strengthen these negotiation skills. But we also realized we at the Employment Service of Slovenia are kind of too short for that. We are experts on the first 4 points, but on the 5th, not so much. So we decided to invite business in, business advisors. And we have outsourced trainings plenty of times to business advisors, but this was actually the first time we invited business advisors to help us develop this training and to help us carry it out. We didn't just like hire someone, do this for us and learn people how to negotiate, okay, bye. No, we invited them to develop this training with us and to really make it tailor-made, and then we also carried it out together. And the training was consisting of 2 days. The first day, we were focusing on the first 4 points. We were doing like theory, we were exchanging good practices. And then the second day, we really wanted to be as practical as possible because yeah, it's so good to sit a little bit and make some notes, yeah, negotiation. But what we really need is like a personalized feedback in practice. So yeah, we said that there was a lack of negotiation skills and that negotiation was a crucial element for efficient communication. So what are the innovative elements actually? I already mentioned that we developed actually this training program together with the external business advisors and then the role-playing part. When our colleagues came and we said the second day is going to be about role-playing, they said, oh no, we hate role-playing. Why? Why? Can't we just sit and make some notes? But then we were like, yeah, but when you said you wanted this training, you said like you wanted to improve yourself. How are you going to become better if you don't get a personalized feedback? And then they were like, okay, but at the end of the day, they were all so happy. So sometimes you just need to push people a little bit. Yeah, so the second day was, the whole day was about role-play training, and then each participant received a personalized feedback that was given by the external business advisor and by the ESS advisor. So we could cover all the points. Because the business advisors, they looked from the perspective of the employers, and they gave feedback from their perspective, and we also gave feedback from our ESS perspective. What could we use? What was good? What could be better? Another element that is also very important is that at the end of the day, each participant has made a personal growth and development plan based on the feedback they received. So this training is something we haven't been doing before in the ESS. So for us, it was like a pretty innovative and a new practice. Execution phase, the trainings have started in September 2020. They were planned to start in March 2020, but COVID happened, and they're still ongoing. We also realized that for some part, we have to train the trainers, so that in the future, our colleagues can take some parts and they can train other people further on. And the monitoring and evaluation of course, are still in process, but the feedbacks are very positive. I can say that I'm kind of sensitive about this topic because it's my baby. But I have been on both sides. I have been a participant at the beginning in the trial phase. I have been a trainer, and I'm really excited about this. I think it's a good thing we have done, and I'm really glad that I had this opportunity to present it to you, and I am looking forward to your questions. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Živa, pour nous avoir présenté en fait cette approche qui est vraiment très intéressante. Et j'aimerais savoir.
For your presentation.
Voilà, il y a déjà une question.
And I can see there's already.
Paul Divney from Australia again. This is a great presentation. I'm a passionate believer in this skill. One of the things we advocate in our is to keep your employer relationships warm, even when they're not hiring. So that one day You can call on them again and they remember you, etc. It's also a really important statistic to monitor for your results is how many employers are asking for not one person but repeat business. Sort of what other measures are you using to evaluate your training success?
Thank you for the question. Right now, we are not monitoring how is the training successful in practice, but more how our colleagues feel about how much did they gain from it. We are going to start this monitoring phase of how these trainings have reflected in practice probably from January 2023, because now we are just training and we are monitoring the satisfaction, what do they still need, etc. And the second planning monitoring phase is how does it reflect in practice, and we haven't set the indicators yet, but we are working on it now. So maybe if you contact me in a year, I will be able to give you more info.
Hello, I'm Caroline Mansell from Actiris, the PES one of the PES in Belgium from the Brussels region.
Hey.
Thank you for your presentation, very interesting. I was wondering how you find the employers wishing to employ long-term unemployed, and do you have also financial incentives for them to employ these people, such as labor market, active labor market measures? And then what's the percentage of long-term unemployed at in Slovenia?
Okay, thank you
So
for the
3
questions.
questions.
As far as for the employers, this is a very informal process. This is like the most important thing for the employers are partnerships. So we are deliberately not doing processes like a first step. You have to do this, this, this. Second phase, you have to do this, this, this. So maybe, for example, I can tell you a few examples. The employer is calling and he has a very good relationship with our advisor, and he says, I'm going to need 3 young men, very fit, under 35. And then our advisor starts negotiating, and she says, oh, that's great. Yeah, I really have 2, but for the 3rd, can I recommend you someone that is not under 35, but is 50, but he is working at a farm, and maybe you could give him a chance. I'm very much simplifying, but we are doing it, this is actually a real example. I can tell you this example if it's interesting. This employer called, and it was the first time that he contacted ESS Slovenia, and he said, I need 3 young men under 35. Please don't send me the old people. Please don't send me the old people. I need them now. They have to be fit. And my colleague, she sends that if she would start advocating for someone who is not 35, is more, that the employer would not take it very well. So she did not advocate at this phase. But she did tell him that it is going to be difficult because the people in our system are as old as they are, and she will do her best. But it's going to be a problem. Then maybe he could reconsider his criteria, but as he wishes. And he wanted people under 35. So she found him 3 candidates, and he was very pleased. So a very important thing for the advocacy, trust, do not push anyone, and do your job very well. So you can, the employers can see that we are doing a good service, that he can trust us, that we are not trying to sell them some people, and then they're going to be stuck with them. Because this is what they are concerned about. This is the truth. And then 3 months later, one of these men, one of these employees, he had left the company. So the employer called again. And now we have perfect perfect field for advocacy because he has the need. He has a good experience with us and he has a problem. So now our colleague said, okay, are you willing to give a chance to someone that is older, but I am giving you my word that he is very fit because he is working on a farm. Would you even give him a chance? He didn't want to give him a chance because he had prejudice. And he was like, but he realized that he got a good service, that he wants to have a good relationship on the long term with this advisor. So he said, okay, bring him in for an interview. And then this person finally got a chance for an interview, and at the interview, it was great. It was perfect. They hired him. And why is this a really good example for me? The next time this person called, he didn't want people under 35 anymore because the prejudice was changed. But advocacy really is something that is like a very smooth. Sometimes it's like this. Sometimes you need to go and sit with the person in an interview because you know him and you know that he's great, but he gets so nervous in an interview that he needs someone to sit there. It's like a million different shades. So I don't want to talk about monitoring and evaluating and tics. I want to talk about skills. I want to talk about recognizing the right opportunities. So this is what we are focusing on. And about the percentage, I have no idea. If you are interested, I can give you that, but please send me an email.
Alors, merci beaucoup, Živa, pour avoir partagé votre expérience et aussi vos ressentis. Je me demandais s'il y avait d'autres questions dans la salle.
Thank you for sharing your experience with us. Do we have other questions, perhaps from the audience here in the room or from some platforms?
Et donc, je me demande si les
It
panélistes
seems to be no questions now.
peuvent même poser des questions.
Yeah, but the speakers themselves may have an answer, question.
Yes, please.
I'm Jacqueline Massa. I'm from the United States. I was wondering what were the top characteristics of the long-term unemployed that require advocacy. You mentioned age. Is gender particular area or ethnicity? What were you finding were the prejudices that you had to overcome through advocacy?
Yeah, thank you. Very good question. Age, definitely. And then some people that have some obstacles that they can only work in the morning or they can only work in the afternoon, they get denied automatically. Then some people with certain specifics in their looks, with certain specifics in their background that they haven't been employed for a very long time. They may have like various reasons for that, but when the employer looks at their CV, it's like, oh, 10-year gap, no thank you, no interview. So this is a very huge factor. Then, I was shocked how many times really a visual appearance and conclusions from that. Gender, not so much. Ethnicity, not so much. Maybe some lack of education. I think these are the most common.
Merci. Moi-même, j'avais une petite question, mais je me demande si vous n'avez pas déjà répondu, mais ça ne fait rien. Je vais la poser. C'est le renforcement des capacités des conseillers emploi.
Thank you. I have a question myself. You partly answered that already. This is a question about counseling and communication.
Je crois qu'on connaît déjà la réponse, mais c'est pas grave.
In order to diminish long-term unemployment, is this actually a focal point for a counselor? Communication as well.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yes, it is. So in this second round of training, when we have a practical training with the negotiation and everything, like communication is one of the top skills that we are working on. we realized that actually our counselors, they don't have any problems communicating with the long-term unemployed. But when they have to talk to the employers, they are so nervous and they don't even think about advocating. They're just like, yes, 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 of course. And for a lot of our colleagues, calling an employer is such a stress. So it's so important to empower these people, to empower our colleagues, because they are experts. They have so much to give to these long-term unemployed, and actually also for employers, because we have success stories. Also, employers are very happy with our unemployed. So yes, thank you. Communication is really important.
Okay, thank you. Merci beaucoup. Donc, je pense qu'en fait, maintenant, nous pouvons passer à la dernière présentation de Monsieur Alain Mauny.
Thank you very much. It was very interesting. And now we can go on to the last speaker, Mr. Alain Mauny.
Okay. It's okay.
Mesdames et messieurs, bonjour. Merci de m'accueillir.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for inviting me to the 12th Conference of the World Association of Public Employment Services. My name is Alain Mauny and I'm the director of Nouvelle-Aquitaine Region's Public Employment Service in France. It is the largest region by area in France, covering 84,000 square kilometers, and by the population it is the third largest area in France. What concerns the Public Employment Service, we have over 4,500 employees who work in 12 departments, which are divided into 85 places to work with unemployed and businesses. I know that main topic of this conference is the challenges and innovation in public employment services. Our main challenge is bringing together Pôle emploi and Cap emploi, the latter being services for people with disabilities and keeping them on the labor market. Cap emplois work with people with disabilities, as I said. But also we work with businesses. The government wished these two services to be united in order to improve the smoothness of services and also to learn from one another. We started with this in 2020, and in our region we physically joined these two services in October in 2021. But of course, there is yet much to do. One of the key words is, of course, innovation, which serves the interests of job seekers and employers. Other important aspects with these two services, there is a dialogue on the budget and results, for example. When talking about the budget, then we mostly talk in terms of employers' needs, specifically when it comes to Cap emploi. There is also the dialogue on results, because in the public employment service, in our Pôle emploi, we are very results-oriented and take into consideration the indicators that our trilateral convention has established. The government, social partners and public employment service have established this for us. Every year we discuss that at the regional directors level and with each department where Cap emploi exists, and we establish our goals so that our management committee could follow up regularly, and if needed, they could decide on further action. It is crucial to follow the process of employment of people with disabilities and listen to their feedback. Nouvelle-Aquitaine region's unemployment rate is over 6.6%, and we underline to the employers that it is important to turn to the disabled people. We follow this process very closely. Another challenge or innovation is the support in general, meaning that we would help those who have stayed away from the labor market for a longer period. For example, they might not have worked for 15 to 20 years. It is an important topic at the moment for us.
Et très important aujourd'hui, avec des résultats non négligeables, quelques chiffres.
I would like to present some statistics as well. We employ 90 counselors, and 85% of people consider their work satisfactory. 5 out of 10 finds a job in 10 months' time since turning to us. The challenge concerns all of the country naturally, and this topic of general help to people or cooperation with people was decided in 2014 already, and our Pôle emploi with departments and specialists works on that. Also social workers help with that. If people need extra help for finding a home or if they have issues with health and mobility, then they also receive the help. Whether this work has results depends on 2 aspects. First of all, the number of counselors and clients. Maximum amount of clients that one counselor can have is 90, but usually there are 60 to 70 clients. And it also depends on the intensity of counseling. Usually the meetings take place every week. Other key aspect is cooperation between departments, Pôle emploi, counselors and social workers. They must meet often and trilaterally. It means that from the start there has to be present the job seeker, social worker and the Pôle emploi counselor. This is where it all starts. So this is where it all begins, as I said, and it can also only get better. So these were our 2 challenges and innovative approaches. I said that we would complement each other with our partner organizations. With our first challenge, it was important to turn to other organizations, and with the second one, it was important to turn to the policy makers and departments to get job seekers back to work. Another topic I would like to talk about is the initiative initiated by the government in the summer 2020. It is called One Young, One Solution. Organizations from all over the country and Pôle emploi and other organizations participate. A very important component of this initiative is so-called employment contract for young people that was established in March 2022. It improves cooperation with youth. They meet 15 to 20 hours per week. Each counselor has 30 young job seekers to help. As our Director General said, it is like a small revolution to us. And why is it so? I already mentioned general counseling, where there are approximately 90 clients per counselor, and with young people the number is 60 or 30. What is important is the intensiveness of these meetings with young job seekers. The meetings usually take up 15 to 20 hours per week even. 2 factors have key importance here: the intensity of meetings and making a contract as such. We do not only help youth finding a job. It is a true revolution, and we will certainly continue that. I already mentioned that Nouvelle-Aquitaine region's unemployment rate was 6.6%. It means that there are a lot of unemployed people, including long-term ones, who make up half of registered unemployed. Why did we take such an approach? First and foremost, to find new ways to help those who have been away from the labor market for a longer period, and also to help elderly who often stay unemployed for long once they are unemployed. This way we can reduce tensions in France, for example, in what concerns employing people, including in Nouvelle-Aquitaine region, which is actually a very dynamic region economically. To reduce such tensions, the government has created an action plan as well. It was created last autumn, which allowed us to contact all of the job seekers who have been a success story to us. In August, by the way, we had 99,000 long-term unemployed, and in January there was
already only 85,000. To conclude, if you communicate with the job seeker and apply the measures that are suitable for everyone, then you will see the results, and the proof is there that there is job for everybody.
Eh bien, merci beaucoup à Monsieur Mauny pour cette présentation. Je voulais savoir si vous avez dans la salle des questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mauny, for this presentation. Do we have questions among the people in the hall?
Est-ce que par hasard il y aurait des questions en ligne?
Do we have questions from people listening to us on the web?
Alors bon, moi j'aurais eu une question pour vous.
I have a question myself.
Merci d'être présent.
Mr. Pôle, this question is addressed to you who are with us via the web.
Global avait eu un impact en termes d'accès des
I wanted to know.
Et est-ce que ça a permis d'avoir accès à des meilleurs?
People have signed long-term employment contracts thanks to this revolutionary approach. Do they have them? Yes, actually there are several aspects to speak about. First of all, I'd like to apologize for Mr. Mauny that he couldn't be with you here today, but he has to attend very difficult meetings. But now to the question. Yes, the general work with the person and monitoring the ongoings from the beginning up to the end, and regardless of whether we are dealing with somebody who is long-term unemployed or just for a short time, we always proceed from the person as such. And it is also clear that
Alain Mauny le disait dans sa présentation, nous avons aujourd'hui près d'un
even if the number of services we provide has decreased in between, we still keep the person in the focal point. And the fact that half of our clients get very intensive counseling is an example of that. I would say 25%. Thank you. And there seemed to be a question from the representative of Actiris. Thank you for the presentation. It was very quick, and very quickly you got over the topic of long-term unemployed. But this is the topic that I'm most interested in, because that's what I deal with in Brussels. You were speaking about the success story, that you contacted all of them. It's an enormous work, but how did you contact them? Did you call them? Did you send an email? Did you send a traditional letter on the paper? What did you tell them? And what did you conclude from that contact? Or, in other words, what answers did you get? Or how many people answered your taking contact? Can you speak about a percentage? And what was changed because of those contacts? And in other words, was it of any use that you contacted them? And was there any use of it for the employers? I didn't understand that entirely. Thank you very much for this question. Yes, I'm very happy that I can expand this topic. So all these people who are involved in this project, well, it was a very big initiative. It was very ambitious. And as said, it was initiated by the government to start an innovative approach for bringing people back to the labor market. And that helped us to work out new solutions in order to get to, on the one hand, to the long-term unemployed, but on the other hand also to the employers, to reach them in a better way. But now, this was the first thing. But now, back to your question. So we lay down the plan. We do that often in employ. outcome. And we put down things. What do we actually want to offer to our people as services? And in the beginning, it was quite difficult to word it because people are very different. And the reasons why they have become long-term unemployed are different. And this has become the main reason for them not to get a new employment. But then there are other people who have stayed aside from the labor market for a reason. And that was something we had to sort out first. And of course, contacting them was different because of that. And then there was the question what to do with the people who are literally waiting for their retirement and perhaps are not very active because of that, and what to do with them. And what are the competencies such a person must have. And of course, there is the group of people who are away from the employment market for a short time, and they have totally different reasons, be it educational or perhaps transport related. So we first mapped the problems and started to look for solutions after that. We worked together with all our councillors. We went through all the available services and supports we are offering, benefits. We communicated with people via phone. We also had a phone platform, which means that if we didn't reach the person via the call, then the automatic call went out automatically, and then we sent an e-letter. If it was not answered, we sent another letter. If that wasn't answered, we sent an SMS message. So it was repetitive trying to reach that person. We also contacted people via social media. We also used videos, and we really tried to reach out and to get people to come to us and contact us. And then, of course, we also received people in our offices, and that meant that everybody had to be informed, the colleagues. And for us, the project where we contacted the people who had found job, it was a big thing for us. We have 4,500 employees here in New Aquitania, 6 million inhabitants in the whole region. And that means that we did have the means to get to people and to implement the project successfully. Thank you for this very thorough answer. Other speakers, would you like to ask something?
I have one question.
Sorry, I didn't see that. I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm Gerli Mets from Unemployment Insurance Fund in Estonia, and I'm a local manager in a local PES office in Pärnu. And I'm impressed how often you are meeting your young clients. And I wanted to ask how motivated they are to come so often, and what you are doing if they are not want to come to visit you.
Alors, c'est une excellente question et je ne vais pas m'en débarrasser comme un politicien, mais
An excellent
comme un
question.
professionnel qui parle à une autre professionnelle. C'est-à-dire que je pense que les jeunes...
Obviously, I don't have a magic wand here.
Et dans les demandants...
But among ourselves, of course, youth or youngsters, they are the same all over the world.
Problématique d'approche, j'ai envie de vous dire. Ce plan voulu par le gouvernement était nécessaire.
The most difficult question with young people is the approach, how to get to them.
Jeunes a une notion qui est
We try to get to them with this initiative, one young, one solution, and with this young people's job contract or employment contract initiative.
Parcours de retour vers l'emploi très intensif avec plusieurs mesures qu'on va
We really to have this intensive approach to young people based on different methods. But how to get to this point? We have to first be able to convince young people.
C'est ce que nous avons fait.
And we have to train our own counselors, first of all, which we have done. All of the Pôle emploi counselors know what we talk about when we talk about this employment contract for young. And those who have young people among their clients, they have received extra training. And they can acquire skills on how to talk more efficiently with young.
Pôle emploi a les réseaux sociaux, Facebook, Twitter.
We also have to admit that we do have several channels: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even TikTok. We use it in Pôle emploi. We use TikTok even. So we have tried to approach them through different channels.
Entre guillemets, de demandeurs d'emploi qu'on avait, les jeunes, et
what concerns our young clients who we counsel.
Identifié ce que j'appelle les jeunes prospects qui pouvaient potentiellement rentrer.
Sometimes we have behaved with them the same way that we did with long-term unemployed.
C'est un deal, c'est un nouveau deal que l'on fait.
We have called them with some specific job offer.
Alain Mauny, le directeur régional, le disait tout à l'heure, c'est une révolution.
So we are talking about people from 18 to 35 years old. It is a revolutionary approach for us as well, actually. Each counselor has a certain number of clients and a certain amount of young clients, maximum 30 people of under 35 years of age. And thanks to that, they actually manage to work with these people. They can accompany them. And young do accept the service better. It is not a miracle solution, of course.
On le voit dans ce qu'on leur propose, et c'est la raison pour laquelle.
Because they are a volatile audience, and that's why we have to have some specific solutions to turn to them. And we have to find new solutions all the time. Thank you, and I think there is another question.
Paul Divany from Australia again. This is to anyone on the panel. People with disability that get placements, work placements, what innovations are you trialling in terms of in-work support, both with the person and their employer? So after they've got the job, what innovations are you trialling to make sure they stay in the job and it's sustainable for the long term?
Alors, il y a plusieurs choses qui rentrent en compte dans la réponse que je peux vous faire.
We have different aspects here that we need to take into account.
Tout à l'heure, c'est ce qui nous permet d'avoir une réponse.
First of all, the approach that Cap Emploi has, as I mentioned in our presentation, there are several issues, of course, but it means also now that in this one physical location, there are a lot of people who can offer solutions, including to disabled people. For us, it is very important to cooperate with our partners, not be the only ones working with people with disabilities. It is very important to create the synergy, and that's why we've tried to unite Cap Emploi and Pôle emploi. In addition to that, we have partner organizations, and thanks to them, we can carry out all kinds of action plans, and we can be active in various areas and include disabled people. Now, secondly,
tout à l'heure, il y avait une question sur. Vous avez posé la question et comment
in France, it's been established that in the work that there has to be employed in one company, 6% of disabled people have to make up all of the staff in one company. And when we look at new Aquitaine, then we have even done more. The percentage here is 8.5. For example, 8.5% of our employees are disabled.
Parce que quand elle n'est pas remplie dans les entreprises de plus de 20 personnes, ils sont obligés de payer une taxe parce qu'ils n'ont pas rempli la condition.
When we talk about,
souvent, les employeurs ont des besoins de personnes, ils ne savent pas les remplir.
the fact that the employer does not employ enough of disabled people, according to this percentage, then they have to pay a fine.
D'une puissance remarquable à Pôle emploi qui s'appelle la MRS.
And now, lastly, in Pôle emploi,
c'est quelque chose qui nous permet d'être non discriminants.
We have a very interesting means to employ or to recruit. It doesn't discriminate anyone, whether a person is disabled or not. It doesn't matter.
Si les personnes ont les habilités, les capacités à remplir un emploi sans avoir
So it's
le diplôme
MRS method.
Ça s'adresse également aux personnes handicapées.
And it really depends on the education level of the job seeker, whether the person has a disability or not. It is not taken into consideration at all. And thanks to that, actually, employers or companies who wouldn't have employed a person with a disability, they actually employ that person. Thank you. Does anyone else have questions? It seems not.
Les réponses que nous avons obtenues en ligne aux questions qui avaient été présentées au début de notre
So let's look at the answers to our survey questions that we presented at the beginning of the session.
Okay, it was quite obvious, but we have on a un consensus donc sur le fait que je regarde ici plutôt. Il existe donc une définition, une typologie.
So we reached the consensus. Is there consensus on a definition and typology of vulnerable populations? Is there such a definition?
Next, please.
And you can see the answer A. And now, next question. Should vulnerable populations be supported in employment in a cross-cultural perspective? 100% yes. Everyone agree. But now the question is it actually applied? And the next one, knowing that women accumulate a certain number of social, cultural and professional issues, should a gendered approach be set up? Yes. And the same comment as with previous question, it is a challenge. It's 40 years that we talk about it, but it's still an issue. And the last one, development of soft skills, and answer is yes. This is interesting.
Bénéficiaires, puisqu'en fait, on sait que les soft skills sont un levier particulièrement pertinent.
Especially from the point of view of those in need of help, because we know that soft skills are important. Important to get long-term unemployed back to the labor market, especially what concerns women. And women with an education level which is not that high, perhaps. So soft skills are important. Establishing soft skills are important.
Mais aussi en fonction des dimensions socio-culturelles et également de genre. Ça, c'est peut-être un petit défi.
It is not only important for the employment aspect, but also from the social economic perspective.
De relever. Voilà. Alors, je vois qu'en fait, nous sommes en train de...
But I still feel that we haven't reached, or we haven't found a perfect solution. This is, however, the end of our session.
Élaborer ensemble. Je voudrais vous remercier.
We have worked a lot today. Thank you all. I would like to thank our speakers.
Et puis aussi,
your presentations were wonderful.
Pour tout le partage de connaissances, d'expériences.
Once again, thank you very much for being here.
Que lors, en fait, des questions, multiples questions qui ont été posées.
And thank you all for asking questions. And thank you for answering. Thanks for being active. And Mr. Pooh, thank you. You helped us a lot today by answering to the last questions of this session. And I would like to thank everyone here in the audience once again for asking questions.
Ceux qui ont réagi directement sur notre plateforme. Alors je vous remercie. Et puis,
and thank you all for using our various platforms to participate.
On se retrouve tout de suite.
Have a lovely day. See you soon.